So at 16 years old, I had an abortion. I was in an abusive relationship, very verbal abusive. Many times of hearing I was worthless and not good enough for anybody else. And based on growing up as a kid, it fed into what I already believed about myself. So my mom and dad were raised in church, but I was not raised in church. So a little background, I'm biracial. So my mom's white, my dad's black. And I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel accepted with any groups. So being in a relationship with somebody that told me that nobody cared about me but him, and nobody saw me or nobody noticed me, it was really easy to believe that. And I just wanted somebody to love me. And we would go through situations where he would be verbal abusive and then be really nice. So, I would tell myself then, it's okay. But at 16, we became sexually active and I did get pregnant. And I remember my mom trying really hard to get me to tell her the truth about things that were going on in our relationship. But I was afraid too, because I didn't want her to be angry with me or not to love me. So we finally hit a point where she realized, she was like, I'm pretty sure you're pregnant. And I was like, Mom, I don't know. So she went and got a test and came back, I was pregnant. And I remember feeling really alone. My dad didn't talk to me for what felt like a really long time. But I think it was probably realistically maybe about 2 weeks. I think he just didn't really know. I think he didn't really know what to say. So my mom started making phone calls and got me an appointment with Planned Parenthood. And one of the things that we had talked about before that was I couldn't tell anybody, because if I told him, I would probably never be able to get out of this abusive relationship. And he would use the baby to keep a hold of me and the baby. And if he would do verbal abuse to me, then he would do the same to the baby. So in my mind, I had told myself that this was a way to protect myself and to protect the baby. So I remember us driving to Planned Parenthood. It was a very quiet car ride. Nobody spoke. We pulled up. My dad stayed in the car, and my mom went in with me. And as we sat there, the first thing, the doctor came out and called me in, and as I thought my mom was going to be able to go with me, I couldn't, so here I was all alone again. And as I sat with the doctor was like, asked, do you realize you have options? And at that moment, in my mind, I was screaming, what options are there options? Because the conversation I had with my mom, I didn't have any options, so I thought. And I was having this conversation in my head, and I was like, no, I think I've heard all my options. So we leave, and then we come back the day of my actual appointment. And in between this time, I wanted actually to tell the current boyfriend at the time, because I thought, well, you know what, maybe he could tell me to stop. I wanted an out. I wanted a chance to not have to do this. But I didn't, because again, the verbal abuse didn't stop, nothing changed. So again, I I knew that wouldn't be healthy for a baby. So we went back to Planned Parenthood, and I remember going in and it just being very cold. It was obviously a medical center, but very cold, and laying on this metal table and just shivering, and I didn't know if I was shivering because I was cold or because I was terrified. And the doctors and the nurse came in, and then there was a lady that stood closer to me that held my hand. It was very painful. It was physically painful, and I could see this container that was filling up with my baby. And I remember the nurse saying, "Oh, honey, it's okay, it's almost over." And was that not the biggest lie I'd ever heard? Because that was actually the beginning of what I thought was my end. So we left from the appointment and went to follow-up appointments, and physically I had healed. Emotionally, I was broken and distraught, and I had nobody to talk to. Me and my mom and dad, they're great parents, but we never talked about it again. Mom would make sure I physically had healed, but we never spoke about it again. So here I was again, all by myself, absolutely feeling isolated and alone. And I really did become really hard-hearted because it was a way to protect myself. After that, it was really easy. After that, actually, you would think I didn't break up with the guy. I actually felt like I deserved every bit of verbal abuse that he had ever said to me. So I went back to this relationship. Before our senior year, I did call it off, more so because I was just so angry. But I didn't choose good relationships for myself after that. I continued to choose reckless relationships. I began drinking a lot of alcohol to mask my hurt. I just wanted to drown. I would not have ever physically committed suicide, but I lived so far on the edge because if I didn't make it, I was like, that's what I deserve. So moving forward, my current husband, we met in 2001, and he tried really hard to love me, but I made it really difficult because I didn't think I deserved for anybody to love me. And in 2005, we got married, and in 2005 is actually where I met God. We started going to Cornerstone Church, and that was the first time, literally walking in the doors, I ever felt like I belonged somewhere. But I didn't understand what that felt like because I had never felt like I belonged anywhere. And I remember going, man, I can give all this stuff to somebody and they'll just take it. And, God he can heal all these things. But the abortion was one of those pieces that I didn't feel like I could let go of. Because once I got saved, one of the things that I would hear in my head was, "You took one of God's babies." So as after we got married, a couple years later, we started trying to get pregnant. And that was another one of those opportunities that the devil was able to twist my mind, because it took us about 6 months to get pregnant. And during that whole time, the only thing I kept hearing is, "You're not getting pregnant because God's punishing you. He's not going to let you have a baby because you took the baby He was going to let you have." And I remember crying out to God, going, "God, if you'll let us get pregnant, she's yours. kind of like the Simpsons. Baby's yours, she's yours, she belongs to you. And we got pregnant, and at church, I started seeing the SaveOne classes pop up. And I kept thinking, man, that's really great, but not for me. Because what I did was too shameful. And God, being as gracious as He is, finally, after our daughter was probably a year old, I was like, I need to be whole for her. So I remember going to sign up for one of the classes, and God is so good because I was the only one signed up that semester. And He knew I needed that, because I'd carried around so much shame for so long that He knew I needed somebody just one-on-one, just me and them. And I think that was really when I truly understood how much God really loved me, and that I was redeemable and that I had value. One of the parts that's probably stayed with me since then was the Psalms 91, that He's my refuge and He's my strength, and that you could literally take that Bible verse and fill your name in it, and He's talking to you. He's not just talking to some other random person. He's calling you out by name, and He's talking to you. And that was truly when I believed that I was redeemable and that I was lovable, and that God died for me too, and that He was protecting my baby, and my baby was safe with Him, and that He loved us both. My name is Carlotta Brooks, and I'm a truth teller.